If you like this video, please consider supporting me on Patreon. For just $1 a month, your name can appear at the beginning of this and many other upcoming videos. So we've talked quite a lot about the finale so far. We talked about the last problem and how it fits as an end to the series as a whole. We talked about the ending of the end and how it was less than impressive. But there's still one more thing we should probably take the time to talk about. You knew this was coming. The shocking twist that Grogar was Discord in disguise was anything but. If anything, it's a huge drain on your mental status as you bury your face deep into your hands. This has become quite the controversial topic of discussion amongst people who saw the finale, and for a lot of understandable reasons. This is without question one of the worst writing decisions that has ever happened in the show. It's the kind of writing that leaves you so bewildered by what just happened, as you try to collect yourself and understand how anyone thought this was a good idea, that it could leave you in a state of subconscious confusion and frustration for near hours. I am dead serious. There are so many words that can be used to describe how terrible this twist is that you could almost write a small book about it. I haven't seen a plot twist in a cartoon this poorly thought out since the Rose was Pink Diamond twist from Steven Universe. Everything about it is insulting and lazy, from the wasted potential to the cheap baiting to the full 180 in the direction of the story to the lies to the multiple ways it sabotages Discord's character. It's an absolute mess of monumental proportions. So how bad could it possibly be? How could it not be? So all this time, Discord was just pretending to be Grogar and as part of a test to boost Twilight's confidence, put together a plan to pretend to help the terrible trio defeat her and the others. This is straight up bad writing 101. You get everyone excited to see a great big showdown with Grogar, just to throw in a plot twist that absolutely no one wanted to see being made canon. They brought back a classic and beloved villain in the MLP franchise after decades, confirmed him since Season 8 ended, gave him an interesting backstory, made him the first villain to not underestimate the heroes, teased him as the most powerful and dangerous villain in the show, and now you're saying it was just Discord the entire time. And now he's being replaced with the terrible trio? That makes no goddamn sense. That would be like if the MCU promised Thanos for years for the Infinity Saga, only to throw him away and make the Black Order the final villains despite them having no proper establishment. Seriously, did not one of the creators and staff members ever consider that this twist might be a bad idea? Did any of them think, you know what, this twist isn't a good idea. We'd be wasting a beloved villain and making Discord look like an idiot. At least one of them had to have thought about this, right? Right?
Wrong.
Okay, well regardless, this is fucking stupid. From every possible scale of resolution, this is retarded. This is literally the same bullshit they pulled in The Last Jedi where they go, no, that's what they'd expect us to do, and then throw in this expectation-subverting twist regardless of how much sense it would make in-universe. Seriously, there were no signs that Grogar was Discord. He never showed any semblance of his personality. No clues, no hints, no moments of foreshadowing, nothing at all. It literally feels like they just randomly threw in this writing decision at the last possible minute for the sake of having a shocking twist. What makes this such a huge letdown is that there was mountains of possibilities and potential behind Grogar being the final villain. There was 100 other ways they could have done this and they just went with the worst possible one. Grogar could have been a villain who understood friendship and didn't see it as a weakness but didn't get reformed. That's why he was uniting the terrible trio, and he knew his minions were plotting to overthrow him but still needed them to be united for his end goal. It would have been so intriguing to go with what they were setting up and turn the power of friendship on itself, serving as the ultimate challenge. He was being built up as the anti-Twilight, a villain who understands friendship and can use it as a weapon or a threat. He was an opportunistic tyrant who foresees the power of his enemies, so he's smart enough to form a plan against them. He also loves invoking fear into others to take control of them and give himself power, something he presents by showcasing dominance over the terrible trio. He had an actual personality, and a threatening one to boot. It's why so many people were looking forward to a showdown with Grogar. He was a well-developed villain and a beloved fan favorite from G1. You don't hype up something like that for the fans and just throw it away as part of a joke, especially if you have nothing to gain from it. They were building him up as the final boss fight, scaring the likes of even Tyrek and Chrysalis, a being who created monsters and dark creatures to threaten Equestria. We literally could have had an all-out war against Grogar and his dark forces, which would have been such an epic way to bring him back to MLP after being absent from the franchise for over 30 years. The ultimate test for Twilight to overcome in order to become the ruler Equestria needed. All this twist does is make the time they spent on the build-up they were doing with Grogar completely pointless. It is literally wasted time. Why introduce Grogar in the first place if he's not going to do anything? His plot went absolutely nowhere, and it makes the explanation for who he was completely worthless. In the season premiere, Sombra described him as the first emperor of Equestria and the father of monsters. Then Grogar, or Discord, follows up with,
I gave life to the foulest of creatures, and allowed them to run wild, taking what they wanted and destroying the rest. My reign was a glorious, fear-soaked epoch of darkness in Equestria.
Well, you know what? Now all of this doesn't mean anything because they didn't follow up on it. Now he's just some bad guy with a magic-stealing bell. Why did they even use Grogar at all? They could have just used anybody else. Why did they build him up the way they did? Why did they feel the need to lie to people about what they were doing? In the time I was working on this review, I found a piece of information that just makes it even worse. According to Jim Miller, they wanted the terrible trio to be the final villains from the start, and were really just using Grogar to mislead people and catch them by surprise. Okay, so there's 3 things wrong with this. First off, you created an opportunity for yourself, something practically gift-wrapped for you, and then you throw it away. You had gold in your hand, and you dismissed it in spite of its value. Second, you never considered the possibility that this would piss a lot of people off. Not once did you take the time to think this might be the worst possible way to wrap things up, that there would be no backlash to this writing decision. And third, if you really just wanted the terrible trio to be the final villains, why did you bother bringing Grogar in at all? Why did you bother establishing him if you knew you were just going to throw him away? Why did you build him up for months just to throw him away for no reason? Why did you bother establishing a new villain when you were just going to reuse 3 previously defeated ones anyway? Why didn't you just have Chrysalis be the one to break Tyrek and Cozy Glow out of Tartarus and make her the antagonist? There was literally no reason to lie to people like this. This is literally Rian Johnson levels of bad writing, taking something that was clearly set up to be part of the story and then shitting the bed with a forced twist at the expense of actual plot consistency. Grogar was nothing but wasted potential. They could have done something really cool with this 2-parter, and instead they pulled an Iron Man 3. It was a stupid cop-out and a cheap excuse to shove in pre-existing villains we've already seen instead of an interesting new one. It's literally the worst decision they could have possibly made. They knew it was the worst decision they could have made, and they still made it. And unfortunately, that's not the worst of it. I'm afraid to say that the reveal that Grogar was never real is only just the beginning. It's pretty clear that the staff were going for some kind of twist villain where Grogar was used to mislead people and surprise us. And while that in itself is terrible, it ends up going much deeper than that. By executing this concept the way they did, not only did they throw away all of the potential with Grogar as the final villain, but also paved the way for a much, much larger problem. The complete and utter destruction of Discord's character. It's bad enough that this twist was used as part of a baiting plan, but it gets even worse when you look deeper into the implications. Basically what this plot twist does is not only make Discord look like a reckless idiot, but it also completely derails his development as a character since Season 4. After Keep Calm and Flutter On, he was starting to realize the error of his ways with Fluttershy's help, and he promised to work on his chaotic nature as a favor to her. This was the start of his reformation as a former villain and his development as a supporting character. Sure, there were times he goofed up in Seasons 4 and 5, but this was justified by the fact that he was still starting out. Outside of selling out the others to Tyrek, his pranks came across as rather trivial wrongdoing. And even when he sold them out to Tyrek, he was immediately backstabbed, which was the catalyst for him to learn the value of friendship. He came to understand what Twilight and Fluttershy were trying to teach him, and he makes a promise to the main 6 and himself that he was going to stick to his reformation and better himself. And in episodes following Season 4, we were given plenty of signs that Discord had been changing his ways effectively. Now he was on good terms with not just the main 6, but other characters like Spike and Big Mac. He was developing relationships, staying loyal to Fluttershy, and taking the lesson he learned from Twilight's Kingdom to heart. Even the comics were helping to expand on his development by pairing him up with characters like Luna and the CMC. It really felt like Discord had learned to truly value friendship and was going to stick to using his powers for good. and all in a way that doesn't deprive him of his personality. He was still a playful trickster at heart who poked at the others in good fun. He was developed into a trustworthy ally and a close friend who really came a long way since Season 3. And then he pulls a stunt like this. He puts together a convoluted plan that involves breaking the trust of all of his friends and putting the entire planet in danger. He deliberately went back on all the lessons he learned and nearly brought utter doom to the whole world as part of a test. This is bullshit. Why bother developing Discord into a character who finally understood friendship just to set him up as a threat? Why would you trash 5 seasons of character development and redemption? It makes all the time they put into making Discord a reformed good guy meaningless. It's the final season of the show when he still hasn't bothered to learn any of his lessons. Despite his claims to have changed, he's still messing around with the other characters when Fluttershy isn't looking, and provoking and manipulating others into playing into his hand. And not in a way that's helpful either. Spending 5 years learning about friendship and valuing goodness only to disregard it completely in the name of faking Twilight's progression as a leader. That's literally his motivation. Set up an entire team of villains to threaten Equestria just to test her abilities as a princess. So basically, what he was doing was pulling the strings on both Twilight and the Terrible Trio in order to fulfill a strategy for Twilight's ascension to power. Do you want to know who else pulled the strings on both sides in a conflict involving a rise to power? Palpatine from Star Wars! Even if the intentions were different, it's still the same course of action to meet that goal. Setting up all this crap in such a depraved and manipulative way goes against everything the show attempted to do to change Discord into a better person. This isn't making a character great, this is making them stupid and villainous. He put Twilight's family in danger. He put everyone she cares about in danger. The citizens, the other creatures, the ecosystem, and quite possibly worst of all, he put Fluttershy in danger. The one character he keeps going on and on and on about him being his closest friend to the point that it became shipping fuel, he created a situation where her life was being placed at risk. Why the fuck would Discord do that? For someone who seems to care very much about Fluttershy's well-being, he's doing a pretty damn piss-poor job showing it. Discord had no way of knowing that this plan was gonna go exactly the way he saw it in his head. What if something ended up going wrong and Fluttershy got hurt? What if something serious happened to her? You don't risk the well-being of your closest friend for the sake of a stupid test. You just don't. And it's not just that he put her in danger, but he also toyed with her emotions. Remember that line where he said he wanted them to remember the confidence they gained from fighting Sombra? This is when he was faking serious injuries which scared the shit out of Fluttershy, just to manipulate the main 6 into cleaning up a mess that he caused. Seriously, that was like the most horrified that Fluttershy has ever been in the show, and he was outright toying with her. At first it was questionable when the premiere first came out, but now with the knowledge that he orchestrated the whole thing, that's just extremely fucked up for him to do to her. Why would Fluttershy still want to be friends with him after pulling that crap on her, let alone want to live with him? I'm honestly glad that Jim Miller was going with that whole leave it up to the fans thing on Twitter, because I legitimately do not want Fluttershy in a relationship with this degenerate. This episode made me hate Fluttercord with a passion. It's genuinely one of the worst ships in the show because Discord doesn't deserve her. Fluttershy can do better than him. Thunderflare, Brayburn, hell, I'll even give Bulk Biceps a shot. Anyone but Discord. I know it seems like I'm making a big deal out of this on paper, but this is a legitimate problem with Discord's relationship with Fluttershy that, from what I've seen, has not been improved. You remember how one of my criticisms towards Discord in a matter of principles was that he put Fluttershy in danger just to prove a misguided point to Starlight? And this isn't something that's just implied, it's literally shown. The main 6 were covered in dirt and debris, and Pinky mentioned how they were being chased by giant worms. So not only did he put them in danger, he put them in a position where they could have been killed. And his methods of doing this were really extreme to boot. He manipulated the friendship map to send the girls out of town because he knew that Fluttershy wouldn't be tolerating his plans. Not only did he manipulate the main 6, he also manipulated an essence of the Tree of Harmony. And Discord did this knowing full well that Fluttershy was going to get caught in the crossfire. He deliberately disregarded her feelings and her safety as part of a sick joke just because he wanted to boost his ego. And this episode is that times 1,000. Did he really think that it was okay to just risk Fluttershy's safety like this? Did he really not care to think about how Fluttershy would feel about this plan? Why would anyone ship Fluttershy with Discord after this? Oh, and it doesn't even end there. Remember King Sombra being brought back from the dead? That was literally Discord's doing, so there's still a lot more to take issue with. In the premiere, Sombra entraps the main six while enslaving Ponyville after he destroys the Tree of Harmony, which also results in the Everfree Forest overgrowing. So Discord's plan to bring Sombra back to life resulted in the initial death of the Tree of Harmony. So was destroying the Tree of Harmony and the elements part of his plan all along? Was destroying them supposed to play a role in him encouraging the others to believe in themselves, which would result in them learning how the element's magic was inside them? Because if it was, that's a huge dick move. Nobody had any way of knowing that the Student 6 would bring the tree back in the next episode. Without context, he literally just killed one of the most important relics for protecting Equestria from darkness. And aside from that, there's another problem with Sombra being revived, and it's a rather sickening detail. Sombra was literally dead. He was no longer a threat. There was absolutely nothing else he could have done to Equestria. So I gotta ask, why in the ever-loving fuck did Discord bring Sombra back? He resurrects an evil tyrant, gives him the opportunity to invade a city and enslave the citizens, and then leaves him to be slaughtered and uses his demise as leverage to make the others work with him. He literally brought Sombra back to life just to have him killed again. That is evil! I don't care what excuse you have for doing it. Bringing someone back to life just to plan on killing them again is fucking evil. There is no excuse for any of this. Yeah, Sombra's an evil tyrant, but this is absolutely sick on Discord's part. This goes way beyond his usual shenanigans. He casually watched Sombra get killed and used his death as leverage and told the others that if they didn't cooperate with him, they would suffer a similar fate. This isn't chaotic good, this is being a monster. And aside from the fact that Discord brought Sombra back just to have him killed, there's also the fact that Discord even had the power to revive Sombra in the first place. Discord has the power to bring people back from the dead, and no one is talking about it. Seriously, did the staff have absolutely no idea how creepy and horrifying this would be? That this would make him even more dangerous and unsafe to have roaming free? Oh yeah, that guy who backstabbed us twice and almost got everybody killed has the ability to bring all of our enemies back from the grave. We should totally allow him to roam free across the land with Fluttershy as minimal surveillance. By giving Discord such a dark form of magic and having him use it so willingly, it makes him feel extremely unnerving to have around. And it's certainly not a form of magic that would be used by a reformed villain who learned the value of friendship. You know what? There's no denying it anymore. Discord is the true villain of Season 9. Forget Cozy Glow, forget Tyrek, forget Chrysalis. This is the guy who should have been imprisoned in stone in the finale. He brought back an evil tyrant and allowed him to enslave people only to set up having him brutally murdered. He broke 2 criminals out of prison. He united 3 villains in a plan to overthrow the country. He makes Chrysalis even more psychotic and more of a threat. He has the Tree of Harmony destroyed. He had his minions retrieve a dangerous artifact to use as a weapon against Equestria. He backstabbed all of his friends, went against all of his lessons in friendship he learned, and deliberately toyed with Fluttershy's emotions as part of an elaborate prank. And even when he describes the terrible trio going on a rampage as better news than him losing his powers, he says it in a really condescending and self-entitled manner, completely disregarding the weight of the actual threat that he set upon his comrades. Watching all those scenes with the other characters like Celestia, Spike, Applejack, and Rarity chewing him out and giving him verbal beatdowns were so cathartic because that's exactly what he deserves. And even that wasn't enough. The writers and staff were willing to undo all of Discord's progress as a character for the sake of a shocking twist regardless of how much sense it would make. A twist that has absolutely no build-up, one that completely destroys Discord's character, and one that the episode provides no excuse for why Discord did any of the stuff that he did. If I was Celestia back in Season 3, I would have just left Discord as a stone statue because he's legitimately too much of a threat and too untrustworthy to keep around. Oh, and it keeps getting better, because now we have to ask what Discord faking his Grogar act means for the finale, and pretty much Season 9 as a whole. So basically, Discord was behind every single bad thing that happened this season. Sombra coming back, the villains teaming up, the tree being destroyed, the Wendigos returning, the pony races being turned on each other, everything down to the kitchen sink. But do you want to know what else comes to mind knowing that Discord was behind all this? It means that none of this had to happen at all. Had Discord simply not done exactly what he ended up doing, none of that stuff would have happened and there would have been no conflict in Season 9 whatsoever. It makes the final battle pointless. It makes the build-up to the finale pointless. It makes things in episodes like the beginning of the end and the Summer Sun setback pointless. Everything involving the terrible trio was pointless. Frenemies, an episode that takes up an entire slot of Season 9's production, was pointless. So much of Season 9's runtime was padded out and wasted on a conflict that didn't need to happen. Discord could have just left them alone and none of this mess would have happened if he hadn't thought of this ridiculous plan. Keep Sombra dead, let Tyrek and Cozy Glow rot in their cells, leave Chrysalis to lose her mind, problem averted. Also, if Discord has the ability to teleport people into far distant areas from a far distant area, why doesn't he just snap his fingers and send Chrysalis to Tartarus? Why leave her roaming around behind their backs plotting her next scheme? This just makes the fact he's left out of certain episodes even more confusing. Do you know how many battles would have ended before they even started if they just sent Discord after everyone? Storm King, Stygian, Cozy Glow, villains from the comics? He could have just snapped any one of them into Tartarus and save us entire plots. This season didn't need to have any build-up to some sort of final battle if the crisis could be averted this easily. Keep Discord from doing anything stupid and it would have just been about Twilight's ascension to the throne, and there would have been more room to build up on the epilogue. All this does is fabricate the stakes of the climax and make the two-parter into a farce. It turns this grand finale into another episode where the problem was created from Discord being pretentious and self-entitled, and he was repeatedly hit with a stupid bomb in order for this twist to even work. A conflict that relies on one of the characters being hit with the idiot stick above everything else. It's a backwards method of raising the stakes and it kills the tension in the scenario. There was no reason for it to be this way. There was no reason for Discord to be the one behind the conflict. There was no reason for his character to be demolished like this to make it work. Had Grogar and Discord been completely separate characters, the stakes for the finale would have been so much more natural. Discord keeps going on and on about how he was trying to be helpful, but he was the complete opposite of this. He acted as the unintentional main antagonist because his poor decisions are a greater threat to Equestria than when he was a villain back in Season 2. Just the idea that every bad thing that happened this season was Discord's fault is extremely anticlimactic, and the fact that he could have just ended it at any time just makes it more lackluster. And it gets even worse, because even if you take out how the twist destroys Discord's character and how it fabricates the stakes of the climax, this plan that Discord was putting together that they allowed all of this horrible writing to happen for doesn't even make any sense. Here's how it was gonna work. Step 1. Unite previously defeated villains. Step 2. Bank on Sombra not wanting to cooperate and use his death as leverage to persuade the other 3. Step 3. Get the terrible trio to work as a team. Step 4. Send them to retrieve Grogar's bell. Step 5. Send them to attack Equestria. Step 6. Watch from the sidelines and hope that Twilight and the others will be able to defeat the terrible trio. Step 7. After the terrible trio are defeated, pop up and reveal that he was Discord the whole time, playing them for saps. Step 8. Explain to Twilight how he set up this attack in order to boost her confidence as Equestria's new ruler. Step 9. Avoid getting arrested. Step 10. Twilight becomes the new ruler of Equestria. You starting to see the problem here? Discord put together all of this complicated bullshit to give Twilight her confidence boost when she didn't even need one. She already had plenty of experience in helping Celestia do her job, and she had friends and family to reassure her. And by the events of the Summer Sun setback, her confidence was already at its peak. Twilight no longer needed to defeat any villains to prove herself because she's already done it. The episode should have ended with Discord returning to the lair, telling the villains they weren't needed anymore, and snap his fingers throwing them back into Tartarus. And something that Discord never considered was how Twilight would react if she found out he was setting everything up. If she found out her accomplishments were part of a farce, it would cause her to relapse into a state of lacking confidence. And guess what? That's exactly what ends up happening. From the very beginning, Discord had a terrible method of building Twilight's confidence, and it could have ended badly for everyone involved. Like I said before, Discord had absolutely no way of knowing that this plan was gonna go exactly how he wanted, and he never considered the consequences if something bad happened, not even some kind of backup plan. Take out Sombra wanting to work alone, take out the villains learning to cooperate, add the possibility of the terrible trio overpowering Twilight, and this plan completely falls apart. Even without the whole confidence boosting thing, there's a bunch of other holes in this plan. So Discord's whole scheme was to get 3 to 4 different villains together and steal an artifact that absorbs magic, and hope that they just decide to not turn on him at any point? These villains were selfish to the core, and they were all known for being very deceitful and manipulative. Did Discord really expect them to not turn on him? Especially after teaching them to work as a team, and after handing them a bell of massive power? For crying out loud, Tyrek has already tricked him once before. The least he could have done was eavesdrop on them to prevent this. We know that Discord is capable of doing this. We've seen plenty of times in the past that he can spy on others without being detected. You'd think he would have kept an eye on them to check if they were planning on betraying him. Discord isn't just a chaotic trickster, he's also a clever strategist. He was really smart and able to read the actions of others and trick them into playing into his hand. So why is he suddenly being duped by these three so easily? Especially when one of them was so mentally unstable that they were barely able to think straight. It portrays the God of Chaos who managed to trick the main six in Season 2, and everyone in Season 4, as a complete idiot who got outsmarted by the same guy twice. And in the scene where they're about to take his magic, all Chrysalis did was shoot some sticky glue at his feet. Why the hell does that automatically render Discord defenseless? Chrysalis didn't aim for Grogar's horns, and that's where his magic was emitting from. He literally just stands there and allows them to take his magic. He should have been able to act accordingly to the circumstances. The only way for this plot twist to even work was for Discord to be pelted with the stupid bomb. Discord being outsmarted by these three and not being able to defend himself literally makes no sense unless you make him as stupid as a doormat. Also, if all Discord wanted was to give Twilight a confidence boost, he didn't need to send the terrible trio after Grogar's bell. Sending them to obtain the bell is the stupidest step in this convoluted plan because it was the one thing that ended his plan instantly. No matter how you put this in theory, it makes no sense in practice. He sent three untrustworthy villains after a dangerous artifact and did nothing when they claimed they didn't find it. Why didn't he check to see if they were lying? And why did he even do this in the first place? Why did he send them after an ancient artifact stronger than even him? He didn't have to tell them about the bell, they didn't know about the bell. He didn't even have to send them to get it. Or better yet, why didn't he send them after a fake bell? He literally told them where to find the only weapon that would sabotage his plan when he could have just as easily sent them after a duplicate. It would have at least given Discord some kind of failsafe. In the event they decide to betray him, his plan wouldn't completely backfire, and by teaching the three how to work together and cooperate, it just guaranteed the possibility they would stab him in the back. I mean, you can send them after a fake bell, but teaching them about friendship and working together shouldn't have been part of the plan. All it did was make the group more dangerous and difficult to control while increasing the likeliness that Twilight would be overpowered by them. And it created a huge hole in the plan should they actually get their hands on the bell. Did he seriously believe they wouldn't think to use it on him? The entire side quest to send the trio after the bell is literally a plot hole without enough information being given. It's literally the entire reason the trio got as far as they did. It's the very factor for why this plan couldn't work. There was no reason he couldn't have gone to the mountain with them just to see if they were working together or not. What was he even expecting? Just to sit there and hope they came back with tales about how they worked together but didn't get the bell? He could have overseen them trying to get it, and that would ensure they wouldn't pull a fast one on him. He literally had a magic ball that allows him to see things outside of the cavern. This plan Discord put together provides no reason for why the bell is still around, why the trio would be able to trick him, or why it was even necessary to boost Twilight's confidence. And honestly, that's the biggest problem. Nothing about Discord's plan would even effectively work at boosting Twilight's confidence. It would just be seen as a random terrorist attack and set the coronation back by a week or so. What it really does is reduce Twilight's confidence. It makes her relapse into her Season 4 self. The Twilight who wasn't ready to take on new responsibilities, but Discord does something that makes her believe in herself. They're just retreading old ground with a previous season here. And how exactly was defeating the terrible trio supposed to encourage her? I mean, really look at it. Discord didn't get encouraged by Fluttershy from defeating him in an epic battle. He liked her because she tried to be his friend and didn't give up on him. What Fluttershy did to help Discord is the exact opposite of what he does to help Twilight. Instead of being straightforward and honest, he deliberately manipulates her and toys with her emotions. And when she found out she was being manipulated and toyed with, it completely blew up in his face. If he just wanted to boost Twilight's confidence, it backfired spectacularly. And it's honestly strange that he would think through this plan so terribly, because he actually did this a lot better in The Best Gift Ever. He wasn't creating a situation where the apocalypse would occur if his plan backfired. He was simply helping Rainbow Dash get to know Fluttershy better by finding the right holiday gift. His methods weren't backwards as hell. He was actually very well intentioned. There was no emotional or mental manipulation involved, and he plays into Rainbow Dash's personality in a way that gets her to work with him without it coming across as needlessly cruel. It was one of Discord's best episodes because it takes advantage of all of his strengths as a character and pairs him up with a member of the main six in a way that isn't asinine. When you look at these two plans back to back, it's a huge 180 that Discord is willing to risk causing the apocalypse and Fluttershy's life for the sake of a stupid test. This entire plan that Discord came up with was a convoluted mess that was just a crazy extra step to make Twilight learn how to be a princess. There is literally no excuse for why he went through this preposterous plot in the first place. All it does is turn Discord into a brainless idiot who couldn't plan a bake sale to save his ass. Oh, and that's not even the worst part. You wanna know what the biggest piece of bullshit that comes out of this is? Discord faces absolutely no consequences for any of this. You thought Starlight got off easy for messing with the timeline? How about we do the same thing with Discord, except somehow make it even worse? Discord is now guilty of breaking out criminals, necromancy, treachery, terrorism, treason, manipulation, conspiring with wanted criminals, sabotage, aiding in the destruction of property, kidnapping, enslavement, destruction of a cultural relic, and yet somehow, for some godforsaken reason, he's still on good terms with all of the characters. After all the shit he pulled, he gets to roam freely, attend the coronation with absolutely no suspicion, and is eventually allowed to live with the most emotionally unstable of the main six. I couldn't make up these asinine writing decisions if I tried. Just what the hell? They can't possibly be allowing him to get away with this, right? This is like the 4th time he's conspired against Equestria, and this managed to be the worst one. I'd say they just gave him a slap on the wrist, but that would imply that he was held accountable for anything he did. Why? Because he freed Starlight from her cage? Nothing Discord does in the finale is enough of a makeup for just how severe his actions are. The stuff he did is practically on par with a war criminal, and not only is he forgiven, but he gets to decide the punishment of villains he set loose. Why does he get to decide the fate of the terrible trio when he's the entire reason they got free and terrorized everyone? I can't be the only one who sees how this is wrong, can I? Discord started a war and not only got off scot-free, but also got to decide the punishment they got. And the fact that Celestia and Luna are seen smiling at Discord's suggestion makes it even more disturbing. And it doesn't even make sense for Discord to suggest this because he's been shown to be against turning people to stone.
Because I don't turn ponies into stone.
So he spends the entire season manipulating these villains and giving them a weapon of mass destruction while teaching them how to work as a team, only to turn around and give them a fate just as bad as he suffered. This scene just makes him look like a huge hypocrite who gets away with premeditated murder and triple solitary imprisonment. To see him acting so smug after how badly he messed everything up, I can't even comprehend how they thought this was a good idea. Why did they even bother bringing Discord back in Season 3? He's learned absolutely nothing since he was brought back from the looks of this finale. He's the same egocentric idiot he always was, and he's still making reckless decisions putting everyone in danger for no reason other than he's jealous, entitled, or just because he feels like it. And it just makes no sense that any of the other characters are still on good terms with him. I'm sorry, but it just doesn't work that way. You can't have Discord pull all of this shit, let him get away with it, and not have it come across as suspicious. He broke 2 convicted criminals out of prison, used forbidden dark magic to bring an evil tyrant back from the dead, united 3 villains in a plan to overrun the country, sent them to retrieve a weapon with world-destroying potential, had the Tree of Harmony shattered, committed multiple acts of treason, almost got Equestria frozen in an endless snowstorm, almost got everyone enslaved, almost got the main 6 killed, almost got a child brutally tortured and dismembered, and nobody gives a shit. Why are they still on good terms with this piece of shit? Why are they still friends with this asshole? He pulled a stunt way more dangerous than Starlight and had an even worse reason for doing it, and they didn't give him any punishment for it. Not even 5 minutes in the fucking corner. He literally brought someone back to life just to plan on having them murdered again, which is evil at every possible angle. He committed acts of treason by forming a plan of attack against Celestia, Luna, and Twilight. He broke wanted criminals out of their prison when they were no longer a threat. He had the Tree of Harmony destroyed, which set the Everfree Forest loose on the town. He stood by and watched while Sombra, who he brought back in the first place, was brainwashing and enslaving people in Ponyville, Canterlot, and the Crystal Empire. These are things that go completely unacknowledged by the episode, and it's really fucking creepy. And you want to convince me that after all of this, they're still friends with him?
No. Mm-mm. Mm-mm. No. 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 Hell no. 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 I refuse. No. No.
And by the way, it's only because of the efforts of the Student 6 that Twilight and her friends managed to make it out of this alive. Had they not been able to unite the kingdoms and get them to the battlefield on time, she and the others would have been killed in this episode. And Discord, whether he meant it or not, would have been responsible for all of their deaths. Discord is the very problem in this finale, the culprit for every bad thing that happened this season, and he never has to own up for anything he did. This goes well beyond just being a karma Houdini. Discord is one of those very rare characters who not only fits a trope, but redefines it. In the same way Ray redefines the Mary Sue, Discord is not just a karma Houdini. He redefines the karma Houdini. And all because he had good intentions. I'm not even kidding. He literally keeps using that word as an excuse for his actions. You can literally make a drinking game out of all the times that Discord says intended or intentions in this episode. Like that's supposed to make everything okay. It doesn't matter what he intended, he pulled an extremely reckless and poorly thought out stunt and threw the entire planet in danger. And his reason for doing it is so incomprehensibly stupid that I can almost swear that I last saw this guy in a James Bond movie. You know, at least with Pink Diamond, it's acknowledged in universe that she was a pretty horrible person. And even before the twist, there was a pretty big underlining fact that she wasn't exactly a very moral character. Something that Steven was aware of and actually found himself struggling with in the latter half of the series. But here, even after this asinine stunt and all the horrifying implications behind it, everybody still seems to think of Discord as a friend, companion, ally, and a good guy. Not one of them ever takes the time to consider the actual weight of his actions, and none of them have any second thoughts about letting him anywhere near their families. The least they could have done was have AJ ask Discord why he hasn't brought her parents back to life. It would still make no sense, but it's better than straight up ignoring the fact that Discord has the ability to do something really twisted and disturbing. They really shouldn't have given Discord his magic back and kept it sealed away in the bell. He's completely untrustworthy with this kind of power, and it's actually scary to think that he still has it, and is given complete freedom to keep doing whatever he wants, even after we saw the world-ending potential that it has. I'd sooner trust Pinky with Discord's magic before giving it back to him. Honestly, the Grogar being fabricated twist doesn't bother me nearly as much as how badly it trashes Discord's character when you put it in context. From the enormous backstabbing to the fact that he hasn't actually learned anything since his reformation, to disregarding Fluttershy's feelings and safety so thoroughly, to risking the apocalypse in the name of boosting his ego, to the implication he can bring people back from the dead, to fabricating the stakes of the climax, to reducing his IQ to such an inexcusably low number, to abandoning the trust of all the friendships he's built over the course of 6 seasons, to facing zero responsibility for his actions, there's really no other way to describe this writing except it's just a mess. It's a fucking mess of bad writing, and it's made even worse by the fact that it could have easily been avoided. Literally, the only thing they had to do was not make it that Grogar was Discord in disguise, and none of this would have happened. It's a realization that would have taken all of 5 seconds for them to have, and they were somehow so idiotic enough to not allow it to come to them. To go through with such a bad plot twist that would cause this much damage so knowingly is nothing short of insulting. It's a straight up insult to people who put their investment into Season 9 and hoped that the final battle for all of G4 MLP would be a moment of animation for the history books. This is the kind of writing you get when the author just expects the audience to blindly eat up whatever shit they serve to them. To blindly think of it as good writing regardless of how it actually fits into the story. And it didn't even have to be this way. They didn't have to shit the bed with a twist this bad. They didn't have to infect Discord with a stupid virus and have him put everything at risk for such a stupidly thought out scheme. I'm simply asking for consistent and good quality writing. And this was not consistent and good quality writing. This is the writing you get when you put an inexperienced teenager who just finished his first fanfiction in charge of your script. It's not the writing you're supposed to get from a team of professionals who went to college and took writing classes to get a job in this field. This is why I'm really glad that the last problem is the true final episode. Because if this is how the series ended, it would have been such a painfully underwhelming final episode. So yeah, the finale has more than its fair share of issues. I was never expecting it to be perfect, but it still irritates me that it ended up having problems this severe. Lying and misleading fans about Grogar, throwing potential in the trash for a shocking twist, awkward pacing, disregarding the Student 6, rendering the Royal Guards useless, and the atrocious character derailment given to Discord. Instead of feeling like a cool showdown, the ending of the end ultimately feels like an afterthought. It ends up being underwhelming and just comes across as average. And you can't just do average when you're supposed to be the exciting conclusion to the story. It's annoying and a huge disappointment when there were so many other much better ways this could have been handled. Before the end of the review, I decided to add this part in at the last minute, sacrificing my initial planned schedule and uploading in order to add more detail to this critique. At first I was planning on leaving it out, but I ultimately decided that it was important to help get my point across as to why the way Discord was portrayed in this episode was complete garbage, beyond any excuse that the staff could come up with. with. You remember that scene from Twilight's Kingdom I mentioned earlier? I'm just going to take that scene, as well as a few others, and play them in full for you to watch and tell me that what happens in this episode is still a step forward for his character.
Who said anything about us?
You did.
You've helped me grow strong. You've provided the means by which I can obtain Princess Twilight's magic. And now you are no longer of any use to me.
But you said this was a sign of your gratitude and loyalty. A gift from someone close to you.
My brother who betrayed me. It is as worthless as he is.
Surely you saw this coming.
I didn't. I truly didn't.
Don't do it, Twilight! We aren't worth it!
Oh, but you are, Fluttershy. You're the pony who taught me that friendship is magic. I had magic and friendship, and now I don't have either.
After the way he has betrayed you, you still call him a friend?
Release him!
If that's what you want.
Thank you, Twilight. I'm sorry.
I know.
Tirek tricked me into believing that he could offer me something more valuable than friendship. But there is nothing worth more. I see that now. He lied when he said that this medallion was given as a sign of gratitude and loyalty. But when I say that it is a sign of our true friendship, I am telling the truth.
This is the Discord they retconned in the finale. A humble Draconequus who was actually regretful and apologetic of his misdeeds, seeing the error of his ways and actually learning his lesson. 2 seasons before, Discord saw himself at the top of the world, but Tirek came along and brought him down to the main 6's level, which helped him discover some humility. The reason he teamed up with Tirek was because he was being offered freedom, something he longed for as a creature of chaos, one who was never allowed to use his powers while the princesses were around. His judgment was understandably clouded by this because it was something that was established to be part of his character, something he sought after since his first appearance. Expressing his chaotic nature, the very thing that defines him, was something that he couldn't have while playing by the pony's rules. The trinket that Tirek gave him symbolized a sense of loyalty and trust, something that had value to Discord since he thought of Tirek as a companion who appreciated his chaos and didn't look down on him. It made sense for him to be fooled like this because he had a very vague idea of what friendship was. So when it seemed like Tirek actually cared, it meant something to him. It was something he didn't have with Fluttershy. He didn't have both a faithful companion and the freedom to express himself. He believed with Tirek he could have both of those things. And because of his flawed conception of how friendship worked, he couldn't see Tirek backstabbing him the way he did. So when he realized he was being played from the beginning, it seriously got to him. He was made emotionally vulnerable because Tirek knew how to manipulate him. The purpose of this scene was to add to Discord's character arc in Season 4. Being betrayed by Tirek highlighted his naivete and helped him to learn how trust and loyalty works. He unthinkingly betrayed the others but then came to experience the same feeling himself, leading him to regret his actions. Before he had a basic and generic idea of how friendship worked, but this helped him to look deeper into its value. And now that he had an actual understanding of the thing he was abusing, he didn't believe he deserved it, which leads him to feeling guilty for betraying the main 6. And what makes it genuine is that Discord actually starts acting honest, letting feelings he usually keeps to himself out in the open. Behind his chaotic mask, he shows that he really does care. And the exchanges he had with Fluttershy were great. He poured his feelings out for her to see, not afraid to express how badly he felt about betraying her. But after being betrayed to Tirek, she still didn't give up on him. And the part with him apologizing and her accepting it, while brief, was filled with raw emotion. Discord being powerless and full of regret, and Fluttershy acknowledging his regret but being too hurt to say anything else. This one little scene was extremely powerful, and it expresses more character from Discord than all of his god-awful scenes from the finale combined. And his apology to Twilight as he gives her the necklace emphasizes just how much he's making an effort to make a change for the better. He learns that all the crazy antics don't matter if there's no one he cares about to share them with. He shows that he was feeling sorry for the friends he turned his back on rather than himself. The amount of guilt he felt around Fluttershy was really heavy on him, which makes it more commendable that he's letting these feelings out. It's a sharp difference between this scene and his behavior throughout Season 4, which underlines his vulnerable state much more. Seeing him fall back into his old ways but pulling himself back up up was a really good stepping stone for him, and the end of the episode emphasizes that he still has work to do. It's why his development in seasons 5 and onward hold meaning, because he actually worked for his reformation over time. In spite of his knowledge of the elements, he didn't quite understand how these individual entities contributed to friendship, which is why he had trouble understanding it until the end of the episode. It's pretty telling that Discord was struggling to understand it, and it's only after what happens with Tyrek that he finally truly understands what friendship actually is. It helped to reinforce his character growth and story, giving it a good conclusion. This was a proper reformation for Discord. It really felt genuine, like he actually changed. This was incredible character development, and it's the character development they so willfully trashed in the finale. And before you say this was 5 seasons ago and the writers can't remember every single mundane thing that happened in previous episodes and seasons, this was still a key moment in the series as well as Discord's character. Of all the things that happened in previous seasons, this was something they should have had in mind when they were deciding on this stupid plot twist. Not just turning Grogar into a ratings trap, but also what it would mean for Discord's growth over all these years. But they didn't consider it, and for that, this twist comes across as a huge retcon and a giant piece of character assassination. The Discord at the end of Twilight's Kingdom would never have done any of the bullshit that the Discord in this two-parter did. There's no consistency between any of these two Discords. It's just as bad as how Pinky was portrayed in Yakety Sax, restarting everything that makes her character what it is for the sake of a story idea they didn't properly think through. But as where Pinky was able to recover from this in following season 8 and 9 episodes, this was the final storyline in the entire show. There's no chance for Discord to recover from this because there is nothing after this. Discord does nothing of significance in the last problem, so there's no indication that his character developed after this massive fuck-up. Maybe there'll be some kind of development for him to make up for this in the season 10 comics, but that's even if people are willing to consider taking those as canon. And as it stands, this is literally how they decided to end Discord's character arc in the show. Betraying his friends, manipulating them, planning an attack on them, committing dozens of severe crimes in between, and it all just makes him look like a horrible, awful person. This is not the Discord that I grew to love in episodes like Dungeons and Discord, The Best Gift Ever, The Breakup Breakdown, Discord and Harmony, or To Where and Back Again. This is a completely different character with no believable personality or motivation. A Discord that just causes problems without thinking things through, and not owning up for any of the mess he made. No matter how you look at it, no matter how you slice it, no matter what they might have been trying to do with Discord's character with this poorly thought out twist, it's a complete disrespect to how he was built up throughout the series. It's a straight up insult to everyone who's a fan of his character, and it's just bullshit. But even with all that said, it does feel like the series still ended on a really good note. The last problem isn't a perfect episode by any means, but it still succeeded where the two-parter failed, providing a sound conclusion to the show. It doesn't feel like it just ended arbitrarily. It really feels like an appropriate ending where most of the characters get their ideal spot in life. Seeing them come so far, actually moving forward with their lives, passing down valuable lessons and advice down to the next generation, learning an important lesson about holding on to friendships even as people move on, it was a really sweet and proper way to conclude the story. It wrapped things up and did so in a way that felt right. After season 8, I was really worried about how things would be handled this season, but I'm very happy to say that season 9 really managed to be the show's saving throw. It had more good episodes than bad ones, mostly handled the characters properly, and it had a nice tone that knew how to tell fun stories with the cast, and it all built up to a conclusion that was sound and appropriate. It made this 9-year adventure worth it in the end, and I feel like 9 years is a pretty good run for the show in general. Shows tend to run out of ideas and become stale if they're forced to go for too long. So it was ultimately best for the show to end at its 9th season, even though we're technically getting a 10th season with the comics, but we'll have to wait and see how that plays out. But I think what matters most is that we saw this adventure through to the end. A show that was made to sell toys to kids ended up turning out to be way better than it had any right to be. And I'm very glad that it got as far as it did. There really is never going to be another show like it, and it'll be really difficult, maybe impossible to replace. They took the time to create something beautiful, and for what it's worth, it had an ending that was just as beautiful. It really is the end of an era, one that might never be replicated the same way again. But even though it's over, it still left its mark in history. A show that took the internet by storm. A presence that could be felt across the world. And I think that's truly something special. It's a legacy that I don't think any other show is ever going to match. And one of the reasons why MLP will remain a hallmark of animation. So what's next for me? Well, I think the answer to that lies in whatever comes in the future. I do have plans on reviewing earlier seasons of MLP, and even other pieces of the G4 universe, but for now, I think I need to rest, and collect some thoughts for myself. So before I go, I still have a few more words to say. To all loyal Bronies and Pegasisters out there, thank you for being a part of this fandom. Thank you for sticking with us through thick and thin. Thank you for sharing this adventure with us. We only got this far because we did it together, and no matter what happens in the future, never forget this part of your lives. Never forget that first time you discovered the show, how much you loved it, and how it led to the discovery of this fandom and all of its wonderful creativity. Never forget all the good times you had, and all the friendships you made. Never forget all the times the show helped you, and taught you something important. Never forget how much of a difference it made in your lives. And never, ever forget the most important lesson of all. Friendship will always be magic. This is Map, signing out.